That leaves us with the third definition, condemn. It says, do not condemn others so you won't be condemned. I think the King James says, condemn not, thou be condemned. Not. Something along those lines. Don't condemn. Do not condemn others so you won't be condemned. From a clearly Christian perspective or point of view, this has some practical applications, especially in light of having to love thy neighbor. How can you love and condemn at the same time? Really, there's only one way of doing this. And that's by carefully applying verse 2. Verse 2 of Matthew 7 says, for in the way you judge or condemn, you will be judged or condemned. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Or they read similarly, in the manner, in the way. It will be applied to you. See, this is how we find ourselves bound by unfairly condemning others. When you do, you bring condemnation upon yourself by the same unfair standards that you are condemning someone else. See, the judgmental attitude that you wrongly heave on others will be equally heaved on to you. So we want to have a double standard. In some cases, a triple standard. There's a measure for the world out there, there's a measure for Christians in here, and then there's mine. You know, I understand my motives. I understand why I do things. I just don't understand why everybody else does it. And because of that, I will judge you more harshly and more unfairly than I would myself. And when I do that, the scripture tells me clearly that whatever measure I think I'm using on someone else, I may think that I'm being measured slightly on my own or less critical in my own life, but it's not the case. I'm being measured with the same measure. So I am pouring gallons and tons of judgmental and condemnation onto people, and guess what's happening to me? It's the same thing. It's happening to me. So I've said that many Christians don't know that they are free. I said that many Christians don't want to be free. Here is a third reason why the world doesn't see freedom when they view Christianity. Many Christians are bound and don't know it. See, we walk around with these judgmental attitudes, these critical attitudes, and it's being measured back on us. And we are bound and don't know it. Our faith has become a faith of condemnation. We are negative and critical of what seems like everything and everybody. How can the most thankful people on the planet be the most judgmental at the same time? We can't. It's impossible. It is impossible. And I see that so much today. You want to find someone to heap some negative criticism on people, you want to find someone to talk about somebody, you want to find someone to degrade somebody, go find you a Christian. Someone who professes Christianity. Just go get them. They'll do it. They'll do it. Not only will they condemn and be judgmental towards just people, they're judgmental and they condemn other Christians right out there. Just, man, it's like, it's ridiculous. And that's what it seems like we have come to this point, and we can't be free. We can't love and condemn at the same time. Not unless we're fairly judging and fairly making our judgments. See, there's a fix. Verse 3 says, why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log or the plank that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? Verse 5, Jesus just kind of brings it home. You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye. Then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So we need to remove that plank, which is called condemnation, judgmental attitude, so we can be free. Let me examine myself before I go around examining others. Let me not be so critical of everything and everybody. Let me learn how to see. I don't want to confuse kind of this word, because I think it's the wrong word. I have a responsibility to investigate things. I have a God-given right to investigate things and to look into those things and see what those things are about. God has called me to that. God has said, this is what you do as a believer. He who is spiritual judges these things and makes the investigation of these things. We are to do that. But we are to do it fairly. First, take an examination of my own life. And then I can now look to someone else. See, we are so busy trying to fix the world that our own house has become a mess. See, the church needs to stop and just say, hold on a second. Let's clean up our own act before we start going around trying to fix everybody. Let's go to Luke chapter 18. Starting in verse 10. It says this: 2 men went up into the temple to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. Luke chapter 18, verse 2. One a Pharisee, one a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and was praying this to himself: God, I thank you that I'm not like other people, swindlers, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing some distance away, was even unwilling to lift up his eyes to heaven, but was beating his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, the sinner. Verse 14. I tell you, this man went to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled. But he who humbles himself will be exalted. We use an unfair measure when we are unfairly being critical and judgmental, when we haven't removed a plank from our own eyes, we have exalted ourselves. What they say about others?